Welcome back to Beyond Belief, the channel where we explore the mysterious and unexplained corners of our world. Today we journey through Washington State's most haunted locations. Number 10. Tacoma City Hall. From 1893 to 1959, this grand city hall was the beating heart of Tacoma's government, even housing a jail in its basement. But by 1959, Old City Hall was showing its age and needed extensive renovations, costly ones the city couldn't afford. So, the government packed up and moved into a sleek new building that also served as the home for Pierce County offices. Then, disaster struck. In November 2008, the building's internal fire sprinklers malfunctioned, flooding the structure with 30,000 gallons of water. Walls and carpets were soaked, creating a perfect environment for the dreaded black mold. The future looked bleak for Old City Hall. The owners hesitated to repair the damage, and the Tacoma City Council seemed powerless to step in. But perhaps Old City Hall isn't entirely abandoned. No one knows exactly who or how many spirits call this historic building home, but there are plenty of theories, and even more ghost stories. Buildings that once buzzed with political deals and government affairs often retain a certain energy. Spirits with unfinished business may linger, perhaps trying to conclude what they started in life. Gus is a ghost with a penchant for pranks, especially when new employees come on board. His favorite trick? Knocking every bottle of alcohol off the shelf in a neat assembly line fashion, startling the new employee, but never breaking a single bottle. On the restaurant's opening day, Gus caused the stove to stop working without explanation. And then, just as mysteriously, it began working again without any further issues. It seemed Gus's antics were simply his way of asking for attention. As soon as employees started talking to him, the prank stopped. But Gus isn't the only ghost in the halls of Old City Hall. The building's elevator has been known to move up and down on its own, baffling tenants, visitors, and security guards. These spirits, it seems, like to keep the guards on their toes. Many nights have been spent chasing what can only be described as intelligent shadows that drift through the halls. Lights flicker on and off without reason, and from the outside, passers-by have reported seeing lights turn on and off by themselves. Each time, the guards check the rooms, only to find them dark and empty. So who or what is haunting Old Tacoma City Hall? Is it the spirits of former politicians and prisoners, bound to the place by unfinished business? Or perhaps playful entities like Gus, who just want a bit of fun and attention? Number 9. Tokeland Hotel. Originally built in 1885 as a family home, the Tokeland Hotel soon became a sanctuary for weary travelers arriving by boat to the dock at Toke Point. Today, it holds the title of the oldest resort hotel in Washington State. The hotel has weathered its share of storms, including a violent Pacific storm in 1932 that destroyed part of the building. But like a true survivor, it was rebuilt, and by the 1970s, it earned a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. Unlike modern hotels, the Tokeland Hotel offers an authentic trip back in time. There are no televisions, no telephones, just period furniture, a bed, a nightstand, and a dresser. But beyond its old-world charm, the Tokeland Hotel has another claim to fame: a ghost named Charlie. Charlie was one of many Chinese immigrants smuggled into the US to work on the railroads. Hidden behind a secret space behind the hotel's fireplace, Charlie tragically died of suffocation. After his death, strange things began to happen, and many believe Charlie's spirit now roams the hotel, protecting it from harm. Paranormal enthusiasts from all over flock to Tokeland Hotel, hoping to have their own encounter with Charlie. Even those who don't believe in ghosts often leave with stories of strange occurrences. Take Catherine, the hotel's owner for the past 26 years. Who considers herself a bit of a skeptic. Despite her doubts, Catherine and her late husband, Scott, have witnessed more than their share of eerie happenings. Catherine recalls one incident shortly after they bought the hotel. She was working on the second floor when she looked up and saw something strange. A foggy apparition, a few feet wide and about 1.5 feet high, hovering in the middle of the hallway. It looked like a small cumulus cloud just hanging there. And Catherine isn't the only one to have experienced these odd occurrences. Her late husband, Scott, loved telling the story of a group of local fishermen who often came in for lunch. One afternoon, as they were eating, one of the fishermen claimed his plate lifted off the table, spun around in the air, and set itself back down again. Known for their tall tales, these burly local fishermen were left unnerved by what they saw. On another occasion, Scott witnessed a bright white glow on the kitchen floor. It looked just like sunlight streaming through a window, but when he tried to block it with his hand, no shadow appeared. An employee happened to walk in at that moment and saw the same strange light. Just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. Number 8. Rucker Mansion. In the 1880s, the Rucker family left their home in Ohio, driven by the spirit of adventure and the promise of prosperity. They set their sights on the Pacific Northwest, hoping to find cheap land to start a lucrative timber business. Their journey led them to Tacoma, where they began their search for the perfect plot of land. The family consisted of matriarch Jane Morris Rucker and her two sons, Wyatt and Bethel. The brothers worked tirelessly, scouting the rugged terrain around Puget Sound. Wyatt was particularly taken with a forested peninsula about 30 miles north of Seattle, a place where a few European settlers had already forced the native Snohomish to move on. By 1904, construction of the Rucker Mansion was underway, a grand wedding gift for Bethel Rucker's new bride, Ruby Brown. The mansion's cost was staggering at the time, $400,000, equivalent to around $11 million today. Built on the finest piece of their land, the mansion became the Rucker family's new home. Though intended for Ruby, all the Ruckers moved in together during the summer of 1905, just 15 years after their arrival in the Pacific Northwest. But their new life was soon overshadowed by tragedy. Just 2 years after moving into the mansion, Jane Rucker reportedly took her own life by jumping from her bedroom window. Her death in 1907 has remained shrouded in mystery. Why would Jane, a woman who had braved the journey west and seen her family's dreams realized, take such a drastic step? Some local historians even debate whether her death was a suicide at all. Regardless of the truth, many believe that Jane's spirit never left the Rucker Mansion. Recognized as a National Historic Landmark in 1975, the Rucker Mansion remains one of Everett's most luxurious homes. With 60,000 square feet of living space on 2.7 acres, the four-story mansion boasts 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a library, a ballroom, a billiards room, 2 kitchens, a dining room, a conservatory, and more. Yet for all its grandeur, the mansion is known for something else: its ghosts. Many who have lived in or visited the mansion since the Rucker family's time have reported strange, unexplained phenomena. The most famous of these is the grand piano that seems to play itself in the dead of night. Jane Rucker was known for her love of music, and some believe it's her spirit at the keys, playing melodies when no one is watching. Eerily, the piano's music is often heard by those approaching the house, especially around Halloween. But Jane doesn't just make herself known through music. Her apparition has been seen drifting through the halls, often wearing her bedroom gown, appearing lost in thought. Many have glimpsed her staring out the very window from which she allegedly jumped. Others have experienced sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature, seen shadowy figures moving in the corners of their eyes, and even felt phantom touches on their skin. Some say the ghost of Ruby Brown, Bethel's wife, also lingers in the mansion, adding to its eerie reputation. If you're enjoying this haunted tour, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps so much. We've got more haunted tales ahead, and you won't want to miss a single one. If you have a state you'd like us to cover, drop it in the comments section below. Join the Reddit page to share your stories. Your story might make it on our new series. Number 7. The Butterworth Building, or Butterworth Block, at 1921 First Avenue in Seattle, Washington, holds a chilling history that goes back over a century. Originally built as the Butterworth & Sons Mortuary, this building was a final stop for many souls until the mortuary moved to a larger location in 1923 at 300 East Pine at Melrose. But the dead didn't quite leave with the business. Years later, an Irish bar, Kell's Pub, set up shop in the basement of the Butterworth Building. When they decided to expand to the upper floors, where the old mortuary once operated, they chose not to hide the building's macabre history. In fact, they embraced it. To ensure they didn't disturb any lingering spirits, the owners brought in a priest to bless the upper floors before opening them to the public. Over the years, the Butterworth Building has become notorious for ghostly sightings, particularly of Dr. Linda Hazard, Washington's first female serial killer. Dr. Hazard, who managed to acquire a medical license without a degree, ran a sanitarium where she claimed to heal patients through extreme fasting. Her treatments consisted of diets limited to orange juice, tomato juice, and asparagus juice, lasting from days to even months, depending on the patient. Some of her patients adored her, believing in her methods, but the public soon turned against her. Why? Because under her care, 40 patients died. Dr. Hazard blamed these deaths on underlying conditions, but it was later proven she had starved them to death. One of her most infamous cases was a wealthy British woman, Claire Williamson, who was reduced to less than 50 pounds. But here's where the story gets darker. The mortuary above Kell's Pub played a sinister role in hiding Dr. Hazard's horrific deeds. It's said that the mortuary burned the bodies of her victims and provided the doctor with look-alike corpses to cover up the deaths. Ironically, after serving a 20-year prison sentence, Dr. Hazard tried to heal herself with her fasting method and died in 1938, proving that even she couldn't survive her own brutal treatment. Number 6. The Mount Baker Theater first opened its doors in 1927, during the height of the Great Depression. But while many industries struggled, the film business was booming. With the advent of talkies movies with sound and low ticket prices, people flocked to the movies, seeking an escape from their daily struggles. Hollywood took advantage of the growing demand, filming on real locations, including some in Washington. The mountains around Bellingham and nearby Mount Baker doubled for the Alaskan tundra in the 1937 film The Barrier. The film industry brought much-needed tourism to the region, helping to prop up the local economy during some of the darkest days of the Depression. Situated in Bellingham's historic district, the Mount Baker Theater is surrounded by several other local landmarks. The Bellingham Carnegie Library and Bellingham Tower are just a block away, with the original City Hall and Whatcom Museum also nearby. Today, the Mount Baker Theater stands as the largest performance venue in the state north of Seattle, hosting a variety of artists and performers primarily from northern Washington. The theater features 3 separate rooms for concerts and performances, with the main theater room seating up to 1,117 people. It's a versatile space, perfect for movies, live concerts, plays, and orchestras. But what truly makes the Mount Baker Theater unique is its haunted history. The theater is home to several ghosts, the most famous of which is Judy. Before the theater was built, Judy lived on the land that it now occupies. Known as quite the flirt, she captured the hearts of many young men in the neighborhood. But when her home was destroyed to make way for the Mount Baker Theater, Judy's spirit never quite moved on. Even after several renovations, her ghostly presence remains. Judy is most often spotted on the balcony, but she's been known to appear throughout the theater. Her favorite targets? Male employees, ushers, servers, projectionists. Many have claimed encounters with Judy, describing her ghostly attempts to flirt and seduce them, as if she's still playing the role of the neighborhood heartbreaker. And Judy isn't the only ghost haunting the theater. The spirit of a feral cat has been seen prowling the basement, hunting mice before vanishing into thin air when approached. There's also Jeffrey, a mysterious man in a pinstripe tuxedo, who has been spotted wandering the theater's halls. And then there are the floating orbs, glowing, ethereal lights that often appear over the main stage, particularly during performances. Witnesses say these orbs seem to dance along with the music, adding an otherworldly element to the show. Number 5. Meer Mansion. Construction of the Meer Mansion began in 1886 and was completed by 1890, a stately home intended to stand the test of time. Over the years, the mansion's purpose shifted with the times. From 1914 to 1969, it served as a Grand Army of the Republic, GAR, retirement and nursing home, providing care and shelter to aging veterans until it was closed. By the early 1970s, the mansion faced a grim fate, planned for demolition and burning. But in 1973, the Puyallup Historical Society stepped in just in time, halting the destruction and launching a major restoration effort to preserve this piece of history. After the original owners, the Meekers, passed away, they left the mansion to their daughter, who was instructed to dispose of it as she saw fit. The building briefly served as a hospital in 1912, but that arrangement didn't last long. By 1915, the mansion had found a new purpose as a home for orphans and widows, offering shelter to those in need. However, by 1948, the mansion required serious repairs and renovations, leading it to be sold once again, this time to be used as a nursing home. Today, Meer Mansion is not just known for its historical significance, but also for the spirits rumored to haunt its halls. Many believe that a multitude of restless spirits linger within the mansion's walls. There are frequent reports of the spirits of the mansion's founders appearing to visitors, sometimes in eerily realistic forms, and other times as ghostly apparitions. One of the most notable paranormal occurrences is the sudden and overwhelming scent of perfume filling the air, a fragrance many believe to be a sign that Eliza Meeker's ghost is passing by. Her presence is often felt most strongly in the master bedroom, where personal accounts describe encounters with both Eliza and her husband Ezra. One visitor, within just 10 minutes of entering the master bedroom, claimed to be approached by the spirits of the Meeker couple. The visitor described a vision of evenings of quiet companionship in their lamplit bedroom, guided by Eliza herself, who reportedly shared her thoughts on how the restoration efforts were incorrect and even mentioned which maids she disliked. Number 4. The Campbell House, an elegant mansion built in 1898, was the brainchild of renowned architect Kirtland Cutter, designed for Amasa Campbell and his wife Grace. Amasa Campbell was a man of fortune, having made his wealth through mining exploration and operations in the Coeur d'Alene mining region of northeast Spokane. Born in Salem, Ohio in 1845, Campbell left school at 15 and began his career in the Wool and Trade Commission before moving on to work with the Union Pacific Railroad in Omaha by 1867. His mining journey began in Utah, but it was Spokane where he truly made his mark. In 1887, Amasa partnered with John Finch, and together they formed Finch and Campbell, a firm that would soon be synonymous with success in the mining world. Their ventures, including the Standard and Mammoth mines in Wallace, Idaho, were so profitable that by 1903, they sold both for a staggering $3,000 to a joint venture backed by the influential Gould and Rockefeller families. Despite its opulent history, the Campbell House is perhaps best known today for something else: its ghosts. Considered one of Washington's most haunted houses, the Campbell home is filled with stories of strange occurrences, from unexplainable voices to objects moving on their own. Some say it's as if the Campbell family continues to live their daily lives in death, just as they did in life. One of the eeriest tales involves a portrait of Amasa Basaliel Campbell that hangs in the house. Visitors often report feeling watched, claiming the eyes in the portrait follow them as they move about the home. While this might sound like a scene straight out of a horror movie, this unsettling phenomenon has been reported multiple times by those who've wandered the halls of the Campbell House. Adding to the intrigue, there are rumors of a gruesome story involving the Campbell children. Some tales suggest that 3 of the children were murdered by an intruder, and a 4th was kidnapped, never to be seen again. However, these stories lack credibility, as the Campbells reportedly only had 1 daughter. Still, the stories persist, and strange occurrences continue to happen. Staff and guides often report seeing a ghostly child playing in the bedrooms, hearing unexplained giggling, voices, and loud bangs. Some have even claimed to see Amasa Campbell himself, wandering through the hallways, looking just like he does in his portrait. Number 3. The Oxford Saloon, built in 1900, has worn many hats over the years. First as Blackman's dry goods store, then as a saloon, and through countless ownership changes, it has always kept Oxford in its name. When it transitioned into a saloon, a vestibule was added to the entrance, complete with a stairway leading to several rooms on the 2nd floor. These rooms were officially for boarding, but rumors tell a different story. It's said that a prominent local businesswoman, Kathleen, or Catherine, rented these rooms as part of a high-class bordello. She never set foot inside the saloon herself. Instead, she conducted business from her office at the local Eagles Lodge, arranging discreet meetings for her wealthy clientele. The Oxford Saloon has seen its fair share of violence, particularly around the basement, which served as a men's card room and a bar. One of the most infamous incidents was the murder of a policeman named Henry. A regular at the Oxford, Henry sometimes worked as a bouncer on the side. One night, during a brawl, Henry attempted to break up a fight, but was fatally stabbed in the chaos. Henry's spirit, it seems, never left the Oxford. He's often seen around the stairs leading to the basement, and is a frequent presence in the ladies' restroom. Many women have reported feeling a playful pinch from Henry, only to see him vanish when confronted. It appears Henry enjoys certain aspects of his ghostly existence, still causing a bit of mischief from the other side. Today, the 2nd floor of the Oxford is rented out as office space, but the ghosts of its darker days still linger. At least 3 spirits are believed to haunt the saloon: a man in a bowler hat and 2 women. Some say one of these women is Kathleen, who eventually moved into the rooms upstairs. She's often seen as an older woman dressed in a purple dress with matching bows. The other is thought to be Amelia, one of Kathleen's girls, who met a tragic end. Amelia's body was discovered curled up in her closet, and to this day, no one knows if she was murdered or took her own life. Number 2. Starvation Heights Sanitarium. Yes, the very place our infamous ghost, Dr. Linda Hazard from our earlier tale, opened. Linda Laura Burfield was born in Carver, Minnesota, where she grew up before deciding to pursue a career in medicine. Leaving behind a husband and 2 children, Linda headed to Minneapolis and opened her first clinic in 1902, where she began her infamous fasting treatments. Linda believed that fasting could cure any disease, from tuberculosis to headaches, claiming that all illnesses were caused by impure blood, resulting from poor digestion. But her treatments were far from cures. They were deadly. Later that year, Linda met and married Sam Hazard, a former Marine and West Point graduate whose career had been derailed by alcoholism. The two married in 1904, but there was a catch. Sam was still married to his first wife, a fact that eventually landed him in prison for 2 years. Upon his release in 1906, Linda and Sam decided to take their operation out west. They settled in Puget Sound, purchasing 40 acres in Olalla, Washington, where they built their new medical facility and called it Wilderness Heights. But it wasn't long before this so-called health retreat earned a far more sinister nickname: Starvation Heights. Marketed as a peaceful hideaway for wealthy women to cure their ailments, Wilderness Heights was anything but. Whether patients came for minor ailments or more serious diseases like tuberculosis or cancer, Linda promised miraculous recoveries within weeks. But the reality was a nightmare. Linda wasn't a real doctor. She practiced under a legal loophole in Washington state that allowed practitioners of alternative medicine to operate without a license. And her fasting treatments were nothing short of torture. Linda's methods were extreme and cruel. Patients were subjected to multiple daily enemas, massages that were essentially beatings, and starvation diets that consisted of just a small amount of orange juice or a bit of tomato juice every few days. If they were lucky, they might get a little soup. Those who didn't die were often left with severe injuries and irreparable damage to their bodies. Emaciated and desperate, some of Linda's patients were seen fleeing the property, looking like living skeletons, begging passers-by for food and help. Despite the horrific conditions, Linda covered her tracks well. Officially, none of her victims died from starvation. The death certificates listed other causes, often diseases Linda claimed were pre-existing conditions. But the truth was darker. About 18 deaths were confirmed to have occurred under her care, though some say the real number could be as high as 40. Meanwhile, Sam managed the finances, ensuring they profited from every victim, often coercing patients to sign over their assets before their deaths. Today, the old sanitarium building still stands as a private residence, but its dark history seems to linger. Former residents have reported bizarre occurrences, such as finding all the dining room chairs inexplicably piled against a bathroom door. Others have seen ghostly figures believed to be Linda's victims, perched on the loft's upper ledge, too frightened to move. Haunting cries for help have been heard near the site, echoing the desperation of those who once suffered there. Number 1. Building started in 1909. Northern State Mental Hospital opened its doors just 2 years later, quickly becoming the largest asylum in Washington state. Situated on a massive 700-acre property, the institution was designed to be self-sufficient, complete with farmland, a dairy plant, a lumber mill, a quarry, its own sewer system, a greenhouse, a gym, a bakery, and more. Patients who were deemed functional spent their days working on the farm, raising livestock, or laboring in the lumber mills and factories. For recreation, they could visit the gym or engage in more leisurely activities like playing chess. But not all who were admitted to Northern State needed to be there. Many were suffering from short-term issues that could have been resolved with outpatient care. Instead, rebellious teens, depressed young adults, women experiencing menopause, and alcoholics found themselves locked away in a regimented facility meant for the severely mentally ill. The hospital also housed a significant population of immigrants, admitted under the guise of racial cleanliness. As the asylum's population swelled, security became a major concern. In 1922, the institution was rocked by the murder of a patient, a grim reminder of the chaos that often reigned within its walls. By 1953, the hospital's population had peaked at over 2,700 people, far exceeding its intended capacity. Despite this, the superintendent faced pressure to admit even more patients. Inside the asylum, patients were subjected to harsh and often inhumane treatments. Insulin shock therapy, lobotomies, and electroshock therapy were common practices. Heavy sedation with powerful drugs was used to keep patients submissive, and sterilizations were routine, especially among immigrant patients. Hospital management claimed that these procedures were for the good of society, drawing chilling parallels to more recent reports of forced sterilizations in other institutions. With so much suffering, death, and disregard for human life, it's no surprise that the abandoned grounds of Northern State Mental Hospital are said to be haunted. Many of those admitted weren't truly mentally ill. They were simply unwanted by society and condemned to live out the rest of their lives in the asylum. It's believed that many were experimented on, died within the hospital's walls, and were either buried or cremated on site. The spirits that linger here are unlikely to be at peace. Visitors to the old asylum grounds report a host of strange phenomena: cold spots, the unsettling feeling of being watched, disembodied voices, and the sensation of being touched by unseen hands. Shadows have been seen darting around the graveyard, and the most commonly encountered apparition is that of a young girl with a red ball, often seen being chased by a man. Some have spotted the girl standing alone in the graveyard, her presence a haunting reminder of the tragedies that took place within Northern State's walls. Thanks for joining us on this ghostly journey through Washington State. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more videos from Beyond Belief. It helps out a lot. Thank you to all of our subscribers. Until next time, guys, keep exploring the unexplained.